Today we are going to see one of the important topic in automation, which is locators. Locators. So what is a locator? So if you start automation testing, when you're writing your automation testing, so there are two important things we need to mainly focus on. The first thing is identification, identify element, identify the web element. And once you identify the web element, then we perform certain action on the web element. So throughout automation, these are the only two things which we need to more focus on. Identifying the web element on the web page. Then as soon as you identify it, then we have to perform the action on the web element. So to perform the actions on the web elements, there are certain methods are available in Selenium WebDriver. So by using those methods, we can perform the actions on the different type of elements or having different type of actions. But before that, we need to identify the elements. Okay, so first we need to identify the element. There are so many elements will be there on the page. We need to properly identify the element and then we can perform the action. So to identify the elements on the web page, we use locators. We use locators to identify the element. So in Selenium WebDriver, there are different type of locators are available. So by using those locators, we can find that element in different ways. And there are multiple ways are there. So that is up to you. Choice is ours, like which kind of locator we can use to find the element. So there is no rule like we have to use only specific kind of locator in specific place. Not like that. Suppose if you have some text box, you can use ID, you can use name, or you can use XPath, or you can use CSS. So whatever the locator you are familiar with, you can use that locator and to identify the element. So the ultimate goal is finally we should be able to identify the element. That's the ultimate goal. And what kind of locator you have used to identify the element is not a matter. Okay. So there are different type of locators are available. So now I'll share some document here. So what are the different type of locators are available one by one? And we'll see practically theoretically first. So what are the different type of locators are available, and each and every locator I will show you practical example. Okay. So mainly there are two kinds of locators we can divide, like some locators are built-in locators, which are directly supported by Selenium WebDriver, like ID, name, link text and partial link text, class name and tag name. So why I have divided these two locators and customized locators? These are the normal locators supported by Selenium WebDriver. So we can access all these locators as a methods which are already available. But additionally, CSS Selector XPath, and we cannot directly find them in the XML or HTML. So every web page is designed by using HTML. So HTML is a language which is actually source of the web page. So if you want to find the details about the elements, we have to refer the HTML code of that particular web page. So if I just look at the normal locators like ID, name, link text, partial link text, last name, tag name. So these locators we can directly find in the HTML code of the web page. But CSS Selector and XPath we cannot directly find in the HTML. We have to write our own, or by using some tools we have to generate the CSS Selector, or we have to generate the XPath. So that is the reason we can call them as a customized locators. Okay, customized locators. So they are not straightforward. So we cannot directly see the CSS Selector, or we cannot directly see the XPath of the element in the HTML code. But unlike them, ID, name, link text, partial link text, class name, tag names, we can see these locators directly we can find in the HTML. So that is a basic difference between normal locators and customized locators. So customized means we can write our own locators. And instead of writing our own locator, there are some tools also available. So by using those tools also, we can automatically generate CSS Selector, we can automatically generate XPath, and we can write our own CSS Selector, we can write our own XPath. Okay, so we can do that. So these are the main categories of locators. So now I'll show you one by one and how to use these locators. First, let us start with ID. Now, if I just, these are the normal locators. So if I just look at the screen, so before going to discuss locators, the most important thing which we need to understand is the basic HTML stuff. So we need to have a basic understanding what is HTML, what it contains. And when you see a specific line in the HTML, you need to understand what exactly that line is representing or referring to which element. So if I just look at this, there is a small login page is available, and this is the HTML code of this page. Okay. So if I just look at here, this is a HTML code of the particular element. So div is a tag name and ID is there, class is there. So here, this is a small line which is copied from this HTML. It is somewhere here. Okay. I think this is what txt username, ID txt username. So this is the actual line, not this one. So this line I have captured here, and let us try to understand what this line contains. That's the most important. So whenever you capture a line from the HTML, it can be any line that is representing something on the web element or something on the web page. It can be web element, or it can be any element. It can be image, or it can be text box, it can be button, or sometimes it will be a form, or it will be a section, or it can be division, whatever it is. So every line in the HTML is representing or referring something on the web page. Now let us look at this HTML code. We need to try to understand this. So every HTML line will start with the input tag, some tag name. So especially for input boxes or text boxes, input is a tag name. Okay, so every element in the HTML, every line in the HTML should start with some tag name. So the tag name can be either input, sometimes you can see div, sometimes you can see span, sometimes you can see form, sometimes you can see select, and there are different type of tag names are there for different type of elements. And this tag, by seeing this tag, we will able to recognize what element it is representing to. So whenever you see the input tag, that is always representing either input boxes or check boxes or radio buttons. So these are the main elements. This is tag name is always representing. Sometimes you can see the image. So for image, the tag name will be img. Similarly, suppose there is a link. For the link, the tag name is A. A is representing the anchor tag. And suppose when I see the drop down box or select box, then we can see select is a tag name. So based on the type of element, the tag name will be differ. So the first is a tag name, which is also called as an element, which is representing an element. Now, every element is having certain number of attributes. So if I just look at here, name is one attribute, ID is one attribute, type is another attribute. And every attribute having a value here. Sometimes the values like name, ID values are same here. Sometimes they will differ or they're different. And sometimes you may not find a name attribute. Sometimes you have only ID. Sometimes you may have name but not ID. Sometimes you don't have both. And sometimes you will see some different type of attribute like CSS. Okay, and sometimes we see class, or sometimes you can see tag. So different things you can see here. So basically the HTML code contains every line contains a tag name, attributes, every attribute contains a value. So this is a basic understanding which we need to know. So based on this understanding, if I just look at any line in the HTML, you will be able to clearly say which one is a tag, which one is attribute, which one is a value. It is very simple and very easy to understand. Now let me just show you simple example. You can just tell this. I'll open this one application. Now here I'm trying to inspect one element. Let's say this is my image. Just I want to inspect this element, and then this is my HTML. Okay, now you can just look at here. This is my HTML code. So what is a tag name here? IMG is a tag name. What is the attribute here? SRC is an attribute, and whatever is there in the quotations, that is a value of the attribute. Right. So similarly, let me identify some other element. Let's say identify this forgot your password link. Now, what is the tag name here? A is a tag name. So whenever you representing the link, always the tag name is A. And every link is having one common attribute, which is called href. Href is representing hyperlink reference. And when you click on the link, where it should navigate. So that a link, target page link, will be displayed here. And this is called as a link text actually. So other than href, we don't have any attributes in this tag. Okay, and similarly, let me just inspect this username. You can inspect this username. And if I just look at here, span is tag name. Internally, there is a label inside the text box that is representing by span. And a span is a tag name. Class is an attribute. Style is an attribute. And here username is a label, or we can say inner text. And the above statement, input is a tag name. Name is an attribute. ID is an attribute. Type is an attribute. So by seeing HTML lines, we will able to clearly say what is tag, what is attribute, what is a name. And this much knowledge is enough from HTML. Okay, for that you don't need to learn the complete HTML. This is a basic understanding we need to have. Okay, because all the locators works based on this understanding. So we need to know what is a tag. We need to know what is an attribute. Sometimes attribute is also called as a property in the general language. And then every attribute or property contains a value. Okay, now based on this understanding, let us try to understand the different type of locators. Now if I just look at this, the first locator, I start with the ID. So if I just go to this link, you will find this search box, and this is my search box, and this is simple button, search button. Okay, now this is the HTML code of this particular search box. This is again input box, so we can see the input tag here. Now what are the attributes are available? Class is available, type is there, ID is there, name is there, placeholder, value. There are multiple attributes are there for this element. Now to find this element by using ID attribute. So ID is a locator which will support in Selenium WebDriver. So if I want to identify this element by using ID attribute or by using ID locator, we have to write the statement like this. So whenever you want to identify certain element on the web element or web page, we have to use one function called driver.findElement. Actually, findElement is a method which is available in the Chrome class, Edge class, okay, Firefox class. But how we will able to access this? By taking the object of that class. So here, let us assume the driver is an object of Chrome class, or driver is an object of Edge class, or driver is an object of Firefox class. You can consider any of the class. So those classes contains this built-in method, and we are able to access this method by using the object driver. So find_element is a method by which we will able to identify the element. But on what basis this will identify the element? We need to pass some locator. Okay, so we have to pass some locator, and based on this, this will able to identify this element. So find element will identify the element, but it needs some input. On what basis it will identify that element? So we have to pass that element. So if you want to use ID as a locator, you have to say by.id. ID is an uppercase character. All the locators are uppercase characters we have to use. So by is again predefined class. ID is a static variable which is already there in by class. So they are all predefined. So just we need to understand how to use them. Okay, so by.id. So all the locators we will able to access through by class. Let's say by.id or by.name, by.xpath, by.CSS selector, by.tag name. Okay, so like that. So every locator we will able to access through by class. And this is one parameter, comma. As a second parameter, we have to specify the value of the ID. The second parameter should be the value of ID. From where we will get this value? From the HTML itself. Here you can see ID is search_query_top. So we need to pass exactly the same value here. And even if you change the case like uppercase, lowercase, it will not work. So these are all case sensitive. The values are case sensitive. So exactly whatever ID is there in HTML, the same ID we have to specify here. So till this will identify this element. So by using ID locator, once it is identified, then we can pass some value by using send keys method. And here we can pass some value inside the send keys. The same value will be added to this input box. So this is ID. Now let us see the name attribute. Now for the same element, there is a name attribute is also there in HTML. So we can use that locator, either ID or name, anything is fine. Now, if you want to identify this element by using name, what we can do is we can just say instead of by.id, we say by.name, just comma and pass the value of the name attribute. So what is the value of the name attribute? Submit_search, that we need to specify. And this will able to find the element. Actually, this is a HTML of the button. You can see black color button, right? This is the button. So you can see tag name is also button. This is representing button here, search box button. So what is the name is available here? Submit_search. So here submit_search is a second parameter. The first parameter is a locator name. And this will identify this element, and click is an action which will perform click action on the search button. So this is a basically called as a name, ID and a name. Now let me show you how we can use this ID and name practically. So let's go to PyCharm, and I have renamed my project like Python Selenium. So if you want to rename, you can still do that. How to rename your project? You can just right click, refactor, rename. Okay. So I have renamed it a Python Selenium. So let's continue to create new directory, and I say day 12. All right. So in the day 12, I'm just going to create a new Python file. I'll name it as locators 1. All right. So first step, whenever you want to start your automation code, right? I'm just following Selenium 4 standards. Okay. Because Selenium 4 is the latest one. We follow Selenium 4 format. Every command, everything will follow as like Selenium 4 standard. So whenever you start writing automation code, the first and most important thing what we have to do, we have to import the Webdriver module where it is available in Selenium package. So that could be the first statement. Now from Selenium, right? From Selenium, import which module we have to import? Webdriver module we have to import. We have imported, right? Now what is the next statement we have to do? We have to create a WebDriver object, right? So driver is my object equal to, so currently I'm going to use Chrome. So I'm just say Chrome. Is it enough? No, we have to pass the location of the driver. How to pass the location of the driver? For that, we need to create something called service object. Okay, so service also we need to import. So from where we have to import service? From Selenium dot from WebDriver. Selenium is a package. So inside this again, WebDriver is one module. Inside this there is a Chrome, and inside this we have service, and inside this we have service class. So this is mandatory required. And now once you import it, so here we have to pass the service object. So before that we need to create a service class object. How to create service? And here I'll say service underscore obj. Now here we have to specify the location of your driver. So yesterday we have seen, right, how to specify the location. So this is our location, and copy this and paste it over here. Now this service object we have to pass inside this Chrome. Okay, so driver equal to webdriver.chrome. Here we say webdriver.chrome. So these are the first two statements which we need to include, and this will launch our browser. So whenever you start writing your automation script, these are the two things mandatorily required. So here you are specifying the driver location, and here we are launching the browser. So at the same time, we are also created the WebDriver object. Now using this driver object, we will able to access all the methods. Now, first of all, we need to launch our browser. So let me just show you this application. This is something, a new application. Okay. What happens? Okay, so no problem. If it is not working, we will see another web page. Yeah, now it is started. Okay, so let's use this application. Just open this URL. So some problem with this. Okay, no problem. So let us move on to some other website if it is not working. Okay, so let's move on to some other website. Let me just close it. And this page is not stable, guys. Sometimes open, sometimes may not open. Yeah, I can see resource limit is reached. No problem. So let's move on to some other website. I'll say no commerce. This is another type of demo application which we have. Okay, so this is my application. So let us use this application. So let me launch our browser. How to launch my browser? Driver.get. Always driver.get is a method in which we have to specify the URL. So the URL will be opened on the browser. So this statement we already opened the browser. So this here, we are just opening the application URL on the browser, right? So as soon as you open the application, this will open window like this. A small window will be open. But I want to maximize this browser window. I just want to maximize like this. So to do this, we can use one more method here, that is driver dot maximize window, maximize underscore window. This is a method which we can call from the driver object. So what this command will do, this command will automatically maximize your browser window so that we will able to see all the elements. So that is an advantage of this command. So very useful command. Just remember this. This will basically maximize the browser window. Maximize the browser window. Now let us see one of few elements on this web page, which is having ID or name. Okay, so now I launch my application. So let us see here. I have a search store and a search button. Both are there, right? So let me just inspect this search store. Okay, now this is the HTML code which is displayed, right? Now in this, let us find name is available or not. Yeah, name is available. And ID is also available. So you can use one of them, either name or we can use either ID. Anything is fine. Now let me just find out this element by using ID. So ID is what? Small hyphen search item. So this is the ID of the element. If I just inspect this, you can find this input box, and here this is the ID. Now by using this ID, let us try to identify this element. So for that, you can just write this command, driver dot find element, and here by dot ID, the first parameter, comma, and the second parameter should be value of the ID. So that you can put in the single quotation or double quotations, because in Python, strings will be represented either by using single quotation or double quotation. So you can use any of them, no issues. Now here we have to specify the ID value, exactly same thing. Now this will able to identify this element, and then we have to pass some value in it. Okay, so let's pass some value here. I'll say, let us find something. Laptop is there. Yeah, so let me pass this value. So this is the value just I want to pass. Dot, because it is an input box, we have to use a send keys method. In the send keys, I'm just passing one value. So this is the whole statement. Now, when I access this by class, we have to import another package. So when you put the cursor here, it will show you what is an import package which we have to import. Just click here. So this will import by class from this particular package. Okay, so now this will able to find that element by using ID and pass the value in it. Right. So after that, let me find the search button here. Inspect the search button. Now we can see button is a tag name and type is there, class is there, but do we have ID here? So we don't have ID. So we don't have ID, only type is there, class is there. So we cannot use this. So we have to go with some other locator. So let us see, is there an ID is available for some element or not? So let us find out some element which is having ID. Let's inspect this. So the links doesn't have any ID most of the times. Okay, so first let us see this. Then we will find one more element which is having ID, name. Okay, so let's execute this, whether it is entering this value or not. So right click, run. Okay, so it is saying expected str bytes, so is the path like object, not service. Okay, so whenever you use a service class, we need to properly specify the location. So we have done some mistake here. Service, and inside this we specified the location, driver equal to webdriver.chrome, and here we just specified only object name. We have to also pass one parameter name, that is service. Okay, service equal to then service object. So both should be specified here. All right, so that's the reason this statement is giving an error. Right, now execute. Because executable path is deprecated. Selenium 4, we are not used deprecated path anywhere. Now let us execute. Okay, now it is successfully launched my page, and also it is giving a value here. So we successfully identify this element by using ID. And if I just look at the same element one more time, and there is a name attribute is also there for the same element. So we can also identify the same element by using name attribute. And in that case, what you will do is we can just write the same statement. And here, instead of ID, let's take a name, uppercase character. And what is the value of the name is just a Q that you have to specify. This is another way to identify the element and then perform the action using send keys method. So let's execute this code now. Right click, run. Okay, now we can see the same element is identified and pass the data. So we can directly use name and ID. If they are available in the HTML code, we can directly use those as a locators, either ID or name. So these are the first two locators, ID and name. And sometimes you may not see ID or name. So then we need to go with other alternatives of locators that we will see later. So these are the first two locators which we have discussed. And now the next one is linked text and partial linked text. So linked text, and here I have shown you some examples, but in the practically I'll show some other examples. Okay, you can just refer the document later. I will share this. So linked text and a partial linked text. These are the two more locators which we have. So most of the times we use these two locators to identify the links, because most of the times you cannot see name or ID for the links. So linked text and partial linked text. Now we'll see what is the linked text and partial linked text. So if I just look at this page, right? So just go to this register is there. So inspect this element. And basically this is a link, right? A. Whenever you see the link, the anchor tag will be there. So A is the anchor tag. There is only one href attribute. So other than this, only class attribute is there, but we cannot use them. So whenever you identify some link, you have to use something called a link text. What is that link text? This is called a link text. So this is called as a link text. So let me show you some tags here. What is the link text means? Whenever you see some tag like this, let us say I have some input tag. I have some input tag like this. And inside this, say some ID is there. Okay, some ID is there. And also there is some name attribute is also there. Right, so name equal to something is there and it is closed. And after that, there is some text here. Let's say name like this. And then input tag is closed. Right, so if I just look at this HTML like this, these are the only attributes of the input tag. And this is called as the inner text. Similarly, when I take the anchor tag like this, there will be always href attribute will be there. Href attribute is having some target link. Target link will be there. And apart from this, here, there will be some link. Let's say register. This is called as a link text. Anchor tag will be closed here. So this is the actual tag, opening tag, and this is a closing tag. So between there is a link text, which is called as a link text. So here, register is a link text. Link text. So partial link text is not some portion of the link. Let's say if I take first 3 characters, there's some part of the link. So we can call it as a partial link text. Like stir is a partial link. If I take anything, some sequence of characters, if I take from the beginning or middle or the end, that is a partial link text we can call. So to identify the links, we have 2 methods are available, link text and partial link text. So how to use this link text, partial link text, and what is the difference between these 2 locators? I'll explain now. So same method, driver.find element by dot link text. If you want to use the link text, you have to say link underscore text. And if you want to use partial link text, you have to say partial underscore link underscore text. And the second parameter will be the link text value, which we can get it from the HTML. So link text is not a value actually. This is actual link text. So we have to specify the same link text here. And this is again case sensitive. Right. Suppose if you want to use partial link text, in that case, you no need to specify the complete link text. You can just pass some partial value like this. Now here you can see printed chiffon dress is there, but here only chiffon dress is passed. So if you want to use link text, you have to completely specify the link text. And if you want to use partial link text, then you can just specify some part of the text, some part of the link text. which will able to identify the link. And normally we perform the click action on the link, right? So let me show you practically how to use link text and partial link text. So let us try to click on this register link on the page. So let me just comment this statement. So this statement is for, here I have explained ID and a name locators. How to identify the elements by using name and ID locators. So now I'll show you link text and partial link text. Link text and partial link text. All right, so now let us see how to use link text and partial link text. Now I already launched my website and maximize this window. Then I want to click on this register link. Okay, so let's inspect this element and you can see a tag name called A, and this is a link text. Register is a link text. Now go back and write the statement. Driver dot find element, and here by dot link underscore text, and the second parameter will be link text. And here we can perform the click action. This is the one way we can do. Or instead of link text, we can simply use partial link text, uppercase character by dot partial link text. And here we don't need to specify the complete value. You can just specify some portion of the value, let's say a 3-character in passing, REG. So both will do the same thing. So let's start the first one. An interview question: what is the difference between link text and partial link text? You need to understand this. So it is launched on my web page, then maximized, and then perform the click action on the register link, and it opens the registration page. So this is how we can just use link text. Now if you want to use partial link text, so this will also able to identify this element and perform the action. Right, so now it is successfully click on the register link and got your registration page. So this is how we need to work with the link text and the partial link text locators. Okay, so after completion of code, if I want to close my browser automatically, we can simply call close command, driver.close, or we can use driver.quit command is also there. Driver.quit also you can use, either close or quit, but there are some differences are there. So basically close command will close only one browser at a time, and quit command will close all the browsers. I'll show you a few more examples when I talk about the differences between these two commands. So for now, just remember this. Okay. So basically we have understood how to use ID, name, link text, and partial link text locators. So now let us move on to the few more type of locators like class name and tag name. So next time, class name. So class name is also one of the most important locator, and tag name is also another most important locator. Now, if I just look at here, ID, name, link text, partial link text. So these are the locators most of the times we use to identify the single web element, because ID value will not be the same for other elements. ID is always unique, and name is most of the times it is unique. Even link text, partial link text also most of the times unique. So if you have seen name is something for one element, and you cannot see the same name for some other element. So most of the times these attribute values are unique. So you will able to find the specific element or single web element by using this locator. But sometimes we may need to find more than one element sometimes. So in that case, we will go with either CSS selector, or we can use something called, class name or tag name. So these are the main two locators we use most of the times to find more than one element, class name or tag name. So why we use class name and tag name to find more than one element? Because there are certain elements, their class names will be the same. The class name value will be the same for multiple web element most of the times. So let us say there are 5 radio buttons are there in my web page. All 5 radio buttons, IDs will be different, name can be different, but all 5 radio buttons are belongs to one category, and that category is basically class. Okay, so that's the reason class name will be the same most of the times for multiple elements. Similarly, tag name will be the same most of the time. Suppose you have 10 links on your web page. So normally link is having tag name is A. So every link tag name is A. So you can find so many tags in a HTML like A tags. All of them are links only, right? So class name and tag name, especially these two locators, we will use to find more than one element. Okay, so let me show you how we can find more than one element by using class name and tag name. And here, let us see one requirement. If I just look at here, this example, there are some slider is available, right? So I want to find total number of sliders are available in this particular page. And if I just look at this HTML code, each slider is representing with li tag. So how many li tags are there here? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 li tags are there. Li is representing a list item. Okay, so there are 5 different sliders are there. So these LIs are representing the sliders in a page. Now I want to find total number of sliders which are available in this page. So how many total number of sliders which are available in this page I want to find out, right? So for that, what we need to do, we need to find out some common attribute which is there for every slider. What is the common attribute we need to find? You can just look at the class value, and that is exactly the same for all the li tags. You can just look at here. For class is home slider hyphen container, home slider underscore container. So for every class name is the same, but every li tag is representing different sliders. So now to identify the total number of sliders, every slider is a web element. Okay. So to find how many total number of sliders are available in the web page, then we can write the statement like this. So by dot class name, and what's the class name is home slider hyphen container. Now here you need to understand one more important thing. So here we have used one separate method called find underscore elements. It is not a find element, it is a find elements. Now why find elements? Because this particular locator is matching with more than one element. So this particular locator is returning the multiple web elements. So that is the reason we have to say find elements. And we can store all the elements, whatever the elements are find here, those elements we can store in a variable. Now, if you want to find total number of sliders, we can just count how many sliders are there. So basically this will return the list object or list collection, which contains all the web elements. Now, how to find the length of a list? We can use a length function, right? We have discussed. So length of slider. So this will give you exactly how many sliders are there in your web page. But before that, we need to capture all the sliders into a variable. And this particular find elements method will always return a list collection which contains all the web elements. Which returns a list collection which contains all the web element type of objects. So the list contains objects also, not only 1, 2, 3 or XYZ. So the list collection contains some objects also. So here each web element is an object. So this particular statement, so whenever you're trying to identify this by using class name, all the sliders will be identified and return those sliders into a variable. Now, if you want to find total number of sliders, you can just use the length function and which will print the total number of sliders. So this is a simple example. So here we have used a class name to identify more than one element. More than one element. So that is the most important here. And similarly, tag name. Suppose I want to find the total number of links available on the web page. So every link is having one common thing. What is that? Attributes we cannot see common because every link is having only one attribute, that is href attribute. Even href value will not be the same every time. All the time, not only every time. So because every link will give you a different page navigation it will give you. So we need to find out some common thing for every link to identify all the links. So again, we use a tag name here. So tag underscore name. So every link is having same tag name. So when I say A here, so this particular locator is returning or identifying all the links which are available in the web page. So outside we use find underscore elements. So this is a method which will return all the web elements, because every link is a web element. So all the links will be returned and stored in a variable called links. Now, if we want to find how many total number of links, we can simply use len function of links. And this will give you total number of links which are available in the web page. So these are the two different contexts where we will use class and tag name. So especially to identify more than one web element. Okay. Now you may have one question here. Suppose I have used this locator, which is pointing to multiple web elements, but here instead of find elements, I will use only find element. Then what happens? So the locator is pointing to multiple web elements. What are those elements? These are the 5 sliders are identifying. But here I have used only find element method. Then what happens? It will go and identify only the first element. Whichever comes first on the web page, that web element will be identified. So this will return only first element into this variable, and this will give you 1 as an output. Okay, because the locator is pointing to multiple web elements, that is fine. But outside, if I use only find element, this will always return single web element. Okay, so remember that. So here also same thing. Suppose here this locator tag name is matching with 10 links or 50 links are there in the page. So this locator is pointing to 50 links on your page. But here I have written only find element, for example. Then which will return the first link on the page. In the HTML page, whichever link comes first in order, the first link will be returned into this variable. So that's how find element and find elements works. So if the locator is matching with multiple web elements, if we want to get all the web elements, then we need to go with find underscore elements. And even if the locator is matching with more than one element or multiple elements, among them, I want to get only first element, then use find element. Only one element will be returned. Okay. So in the next sessions, I will discuss more on find element and find elements. Okay. There are different examples I will show you. So for now, my intention is to just understand how to use class name and tag name. Okay. Now let us see the web page and see how to use class name and these things. Go back to the home page. Okay, so this is my home page. So these are the 2 sliders I have. So let us try this, or else we can do one thing. Let us find these images. So we need to find the class tag should be there. Otherwise we cannot do anything. So whichever elements we are looking for, there should be some class. Okay, let us try to find this image. Href. This is also link actually. So these are the links which is available here. This is the page body. Okay, so here it is not relevant. So let us try to use this page directly. So let's see whether it's opening or not again. Okay, so let's try this page, try to open this page through automation, and we'll see. Otherwise, we'll directly jump into the link. So you can try that in some other example. Okay, so let me just comment this and I'll create one more example. Close this. Right click, new Python file, locators 2. All right. So here I'll just copy the same code, whatever I have written till here. This is same. Okay, every time. All right. So this time I'm trying to change the application. Sorry, I have closed this page. Just a moment. Okay. So now let us try to open the same page, automationpractice.com. So here I'm just changing the application URL and then maximizing the window. And then as soon as you launch your application, I just want to find sliders. How many sliders are there in this particular page? Okay, now I got my page. So let me just find out how many sliders are there. So if I just inspect this, you can also inspect these elements in the Edge browser. Okay, you can use any browser, Chrome, Edge, Firefox, whatever. So currently it is open in the Edge browser, still no problem. Okay, so now let us see what are the common things which are available. Just a second. So you can see LI tags. I have just shown you on the screenshot, right? So these are the LI tags you can just notice. So this is one li, second li, third li, 4, 5. And this is a UL tag, which is a parent tag and which contains all the sub tags. So each li is representing. How we will know exactly? So you have to inspect like this. And then it is pointing to some div tag, and we need to just a little go up. We need to traverse through HTML. And here you can find multiple li tags. Now, when I place my cursor in each and every li tag, it is highlighting the slider. Okay, so these li tags we have to capture. So then what we have to do is we have to say driver dot find elements. Okay, find elements. So by dot class name, this is a locator. Now, what is the value of the class name? What is the value of the class? This is the one, home slider hyphen container. Right. So what this will return? It will return sliders, multiple sliders, multiple sliders. So this will basically return the list collection. Okay. Inside the list collection, all the web elements will be stored. So web element in the sense, all the slider, each slider is a web element. So all the web elements will be stored in this slider variable. Now, if you want to find how many sliders are there in the web page, simply we can say len of sliders, and this we have to print. Okay, this is how we need to do. Let's execute. And I specify Chrome configuration, so it should launch Chrome browser. Yeah, now it is successfully launched, maximized. Yeah, now we can just go back and see the output. So it is returning totally 5. So that means totally 5 sliders are there in this web page. Okay. So similarly, we can also find how many total number of links which are available in this page. Links in the sense, we can say anchor tags. So women is linked, dresses, t-shirts. These are all the different links are available. So many links are there in this page. So these are all links. So I want to find total number of links which are available in this page. So for that, what we can do is we can simply capture all the web elements, all the links as a web elements. So every link is having some common tag. What is that? Anchor tag. A is a common tag which is there for every link. So here also we use driver.find elements because we want to find multiple elements. So here the locator is by dot tag name, by dot tag name. And here we have to specify a, small a. So which will also return all the links in the list collection. Then we can find len of links. So just we need to print it, print a len of links. So now this will give you a total number of images, and this will give you a total number of links which are available on the web page. And execute. Now launching my web page, launching my browser. And URL has got launched. Now pages got open, maximized. So I think it is already done. So because we are not closing the page, it is still open. Yes, now you can see here there are 5 slides are there and 149 links are available. So this is representing total number of links. Total number of links. And this is representing here 149 it is given. So 5 is representing total number of sliders on home page, and here also it is on home page. Right. So this is how we can just use class name and a tag name locators, and most of the times we use these 2 types of locators to find multiple web elements. We have to remember that most important point. So in interview people may ask how to find multiple web elements. What is a locator you will use it? So immediately you have to say either class name or tag name. Okay. Now, so let's move on to the next type of locators. ID we have discussed, name we have done, link text, class name and tag name. And now very interesting, CSS selectors. So now we will look at CSS selector, how to work with the CSS selector. So as I said beginning, CSS selector and XPath are the customized locators. customized locators. Why it is customized? Because we cannot directly find CSS selector in our HTML just like other locators. If I just look at ID, name, class name, tag name, we can find in the HTML. But CSS and XPath, we cannot directly find in HTML. So we have to generate a CSS selector or we have to write our own selector. Okay. So again, CSS selector, we can write in different ways, like tag and ID combination we can use, tag and class combination, tag and attribute combination, tag class attribute combinations. So the different things we will use while writing the CSS selector locator. But if I just look at this tag and ID combination, if ID is already available for element, why should we go for again CSS selector, tag and ID combination? So still we can use ID, no problem at all. Okay, as I said beginning, these are the different choices we have. So which locator we have to use, that is up to you. Whichever locator you are familiar, you can just use that locator. The ultimate goal is to find the element. Either you can use ID, name, whatever it is. But sometimes even though ID is correctly given, sometimes it may not identify the element. If you go for very complex pages, sometimes you will have that kind of challenges. So especially in those situations, you need to use some other locator along with this ID, like tag and ID combination. Then you can find that element. Similarly, sometimes you may not able to identify by using class attribute. And then you can add tag, and the tag and class combination will able to identify. And suppose I don't have ID and I don't have class for that element, but some other attribute is there, some like a type is there, and or some other locator, some other attribute is there, but that is not a locator. There's some attribute is there in HTML other than ID and class. So in those cases also we can use tag along with that attribute, whichever is available for that element. Similarly, we can use tag, class and attribute combination. Class is available, tag is also available. Still it is not identify this element. Then we can add one more attribute as a combination. Then we can find the element. So these are the different combinations we can write a CSS selector. Okay. Now I'll show you how we can use the CSS selectors practically. Now to do that, let's go to one more application. Let me just open it. Just a moment. So let me just open one more type of application. So to use the CSS locators. Okay, so now let me take this Facebook page, facebook.com, and let us try to locate these elements by using CSS selectors. Okay, let it open this. Now let us try to write another automation code. Let us create one more Python file. So I'll name it as locators 3. Okay, so as usual, first few statements we will copy from another script like this. Okay, so service and also Webdriver also we have to import. This is the main thing. Okay, so we have imported Webdriver from Selenium, imported service from this package, and buy also we have imported from this package. Now this statement will launch your application, and actually this statement is basically configuration of service object, and this statement will launch your application, launch your browser. And then we need to open the application URL. So how to open the application URL? Driver.get. So this driver is just an object name I have given, guys. So you can just give D also, no problem. So in that case, you can say d.get. I hope you guys have understood, because we discussed all the object-oriented programming concepts. So this is a fundamental thing. Okay, object name can be anything, because I'm just giving the relevant name, Webdriver. So driver is an object. It is more popular term we use in automation. Okay, so driver. Simply I say driver.get, and here you can specify the application URL. So let's open facebook.com and specify here. Then I'll try to maximize the page. How to maximize the page? Driver.maximize window. So always remember this command. Whenever you launch your application, try to maximize it so that you will see all the elements on the web page. Now, so let us see how we can use CSS selectors. So CSS selectors, we can use multiple combinations. CSS selector combinations. So the first combination is tag and ID. Second combination is tag and class. Third combination is tag and attribute. Fourth combination is tag class attribute. Okay, so I'll tell you, tag is optional every time. Okay, here tag is also optional. Tag is not mandatory to give you, and we can simply create a CSS selector by using any of these attribute also. But I'll tell you how to do that. Listen carefully. So now let us already open the application and maximize this window. And then we will see first combination, tag and ID combination, how to use tag and ID along with the CSS selector. So that means I'm just going to show you how to use this combination in CSS selector, tag and ID. Okay. Now, if I just look at this page, let's say email address and phone number, let us try to inspect this element. So what are all things are there? So we need to have tag and ID both. Okay, then only we can use CSS selector with these two combination. You can just look at here. What is the tag in this HTML? So please respond. So what is the tag in this HTML? What is the tag name in the HTML? Input, right? So input is a tag name. So that we know here. And what is a class? This is a class. So tag is input. Sorry, tag and ID combination I'm looking for. So tag is an input. What is an ID? Email is an ID. So we know tag and we know ID. Both we know. So we can easily frame the CSS selector by using this tag and ID. But what is the syntax we have to follow? So when I use a tag and ID combination, the syntax, CSS selector syntax will be like this. First, we have to specify the tag name, hash, the value of ID. Okay, so value of ID we have to specify. So both we need to separate with the hash symbol, tag name, hash ID. So in our example, how to write now? Input is my tag name, hash. What is the value of the ID? Email is the value of the ID. So this is a CSS selector. Now let us use it. Go back, and here again, driver dot find element by dot CSS selector. This is a method we have to call CSS underscore selector, and second parameter will be the CSS selector value which we have created, input slash email. Input is a tag name, email is a value of ID. Now here I'm just passing a value by using send keys method dot send keys. I say ABC. So this is how we need to specify tag and ID combination of CSS selector. So let us try to execute and see. Now it is launched in my browser. Open the application. Now we can see exactly it is find out that element and pass this value. Right. So one more thing here, the tag name is always optional, not mandatorily required. Only ID also we can specify. So how we can specify? We can just write the same statement like this. Comment the statement. I can just remove the tag, but hash should be there. Okay. So this is also right syntax. Tag name is always optional. So in all the combinations, the tag is always optional, but we cannot directly specify ID. We cannot directly specify class. We cannot directly specify attribute. We have to use certain syntax here. So how to use them? If you want to use ID, hash ID value you have to use. Similarly, if you want to use a class, dot class name you have to use. So there is a syntax is available. So we need to follow the syntax. So because we are using CSS selector as a locator, so we cannot directly pass ID like this. We have to use hash. That is syntax. And if you know the tag name, you can specify the tag name, which is also optional. So this statement and this one is exactly the same. Now let us try to execute. So this will also do the same thing. Yes, now it is entered the value. So tag and ID combination. Now let us see one more combination. Tag and class. Tag and a class combination. How to use tag and class combination? So let us try to take the same element. So tag and class combination. So here the same element, tag is input. What is the class? This is the class value, right? So this is the class value, input text space underscore 55 R1 space underscore 6 LUI, something is there. So this is a class value. So how to write the CSS selector for this? So tag name, the syntax is like this: tag name dot, then class value or value of the class. Okay, value of the class. This is syntax. So now how to frame this? Tag name is input dot, what is a value of the class? This is a value of the class that we have to specify. Now this is a CSS selector. Okay, this is a CSS selector. All right, so now let us execute this and we'll see how it's going to work. So I'll say driver dot same element, but we are trying to use multiple type of locator. So driver dot find element by dot CSS selector, and here the combination of tag and class. So what is a combination of tag and class? These things. So dot is a symbol. Okay, tag and the value of the class we separate with the dot symbol. So this is a locator. And now pass this value by using send keys method. Send keys, I'll say abc@gmail.com. Some value you can just pass like this. Okay, so now the same element, and this time I'm using tag and a class. Let's try to execute. Now it is not taken the value. Now we'll see the what is an error. Yes, now we got some error here. What is that? This is a statement which is actually giving the error. So why it is no such element exception, it is giving unable to locate the element. Why it is unable to locate the element? Because of this reason, selector. So why it is giving an error? We have given the right one, right? So the problem here is, if I just go back and see the class value, input text, after input text, there is a space here. Okay. And most of the times, if there is any space here, after the space, whatever is there, that value will not be considered. Okay, sometimes, not every time. Sometimes it will take, sometimes may not take. That depends on how developer is design the page. Okay, so here this is the problem actually. So there is a space here. So after space, whatever is there, it is not taking. So let's try to remove that part in the class and just say only input text. Only input text I'm giving. Now let us try to execute. Close these pages. Run. All right, so now you can just look at here. It is successfully identify the element and pass the value. So this is how we can just write tag and the class combination. Again, here tag is a optional, not mandatory. But if I don't specify the tag, how you can write the CSS selector only by using class? You can just remove the tag name. So now this one and this one is exactly works in the similar way, but dot should be there. We should not remove the dot. That's the syntax. Okay, now I commented. Now we'll see this statement also do the same thing. Right click, run. Yeah, now it is also identify the element and pass this value. Okay, so this is a tag and a class combination. Now the next thing is tag attribute combination. Suppose ID is not there, class is also not available sometimes, then we can depends on any other attribute. Even that attribute may not be a locator, which is supported by Selenium. It can be any kind of other attribute. We can still use it. Okay, so for example, let us go to the same page, and here, so email and phone number is there. So here input tag is there. Let us assume I don't have ID and I don't have a class. But what are other attributes are available here? Name is available, data tested ID is available, placeholder is available, right? Area label is available, autofocus is available. These are other attributes which are available, but they are not exactly locators. So name is there, but name we cannot use as a combination of with the tag. Only ID class we can use along with the tag combination. So, but tag name combination is not available. Okay, but we can still use other attributes along with the tag. So other than the class and ID, if we still want to use some other attributes along with the tag name, then we can go with the another syntax, tag and attribute combination. What is the syntax of this? We have to say tag name. Okay. And in the bracket, we have to specify the attribute along with the value. Here, attribute value also we have to specify. So this is a syntax. Okay. But in about two situations, we have just to specify only value of the ID. Here we specify only value of the class. But here not like that. We have to specify the attribute along with the value. So that is a difference here. So tag and attribute, because the attribute which we can take any attribute. So that attribute we have to specify along with the value. So this becomes a CSS selector. Now let us try to frame this for the same element. So I'm trying to use input is my tag name. So we can write like this. Input is a tag name in the bracket. And I'm just trying to use this one, data-tested ID. So we need to copy the whole thing. Okay, like this. Attribute along with the value. But here we no need to specify the quotations, not required, optional. Not optional, it's not at all required. So this is how we need to specify. So now input is a tag. Data tested is a one of the attribute of the element, and royal_email is a value of this attribute. So this whole thing is a CSS selector with the tag and attribute combination. Now let us use this for the same element. Comment this, and this time I'm using tag and attribute combination. Tag and attribute combination. So here I can say driver dot find element by dot CSS selector, and now you can directly specify the CSS selector directly inside the double quotations or single quotations. Now this will able to find the element and followed by send keys method. abc@gmail.com, some value I'm giving here. Right, so this is a tag and one of the attribute. You can use any attribute. Okay, but most of the times we don't prefer to use like autofocus, label, because these things will be there for multiple elements sometimes. So just find out some unique attribute and unique value and try to use them. So this will also do the same thing. Let's try to execute. All right, so now it is enter the value identified with the tag and attribute. And again, here tag is optional. So the same statement you can write like this. Copy it. So you can just write like the same statement. You can just remove the tag. Tag is optional, but still the bracket should be there. Okay. Now this is also exactly the same as above one. So execute once again. Okay, now it is successfully identified the element. Right, so this is how we can use tag and attribute combination. Tag and attribute combination. And one more type of combination. So we can also use tag, class, and attribute combination. Tag, class, and attribute combination. 3. Now how to do that? So tag and class, we already know this. So this is a syntax we have to follow. Same thing. And additionally, attribute is added. When I use attribute, what's the syntax? The bracket you have to say. So this is a bracket. So this is a combination of tag, class, and attribute. So first specify the tag name, dot class value, and attribute. Some other attribute we have to specify in the square brackets. And when we have to use this, I'll tell you some example. And go back to the page. Tag, class, and attribute combination. I'm just going to show you. So you can just look at this. I've given all the examples here. You can just go through presentation later. Yeah, now you can just look at this example. Tag, class, and attribute. So when we need to go with this combination. So if I just look at these two elements, tag, class, both are same for these two elements. You can see input is a tag name. Here is an input, here also input. So tag name is same. And what is the class value? Class value is input text. Here also class value is input text. Both are same. Now, when I write the locator with the tag and class combination earlier, it is find out only first element. It is not given the second element, even though this locator, if I just go back this one, this locator is actually matching with the two elements, but it is giving only the first element. Why it is giving first element? Because we used a find element here instead of find elements, right? Even though this locator is matching with the two input elements, still it is giving only one element, identified this element, because we used a find element. But normally, sometimes if your locator is matching with the two elements, right, and still I want to access the second element. So this locator is matching with the two elements, and when I use that locator with the find element, by default it will go and identify the first element, email address. But my requirement is I want to identify the second element. Then how we can change this to identify the second element? But still I want to use the same tag name, same class name, but I want to identify the second element instead of first element. So in that case, we have to add one more additional attribute which will differentiate these two elements. So what is an additional attribute which we have here? We can find out in this HTML. So if I just look at this, you can find out some other attribute which is differentiate these two elements. So if I just look at here, tag is same, class is same, but other than these two, we need to find something else. You can just look at the name here. Name equal to email, here a name equal to pass. So this attribute we can use to differentiate, or we can use ID also. Here ID is email, here ID is pass, or we can use data tested ID. So data tested ID value is royal underscore email. Here data tested ID is royal underscore pass. So we can use some other attributes to differentiate these two elements. Now understand this. So when I use this one, okay, so let me just comment. This is another most important tag, class, and attribute. Okay, so now when I use this statement, this particular statement, when I use this, will find the first element. When I use this statement, which will find the first element, but actually this locator is matching with the both elements, but still it is returning only first element. This value is adding into the first element. Let's try one more time. So opening the page, and now you can see the value is added in the first element, even though that locator is matching with the second element. But now I want to enter the value in the second input box instead of first input box. So for that, what we will do is we have to add one more additional attribute. So what is the syntax of that? This is a syntax: tag name, class, attribute equal to values. Now we need to combine these two. We have to combine these two. How to write now? So by using this syntax, we can write it. So now observe this. What is the tag name? Input is a tag name. Input is a tag name. Dot, what is the value of the class? Input text. Input text is a value of the class. Now in the bracket, so I'm using tested ID. Royal email is the attribute of the first element. Now I want to take the raw data tested ID value from the second element. So if I just look at here, let's identify this element. Yeah, you can see this is the first element. Here it is a second element. Two input tags you can see here. When I move mouse cursor on that tag, it is highlighting the particular element. You can just observe here, right? Now in the second input box, I'm just taking data tested ID royal underscore pass. That is a different from the first one, right? So then I will specify that in a bracket. First, let me write it here. So this is a one. So royal pass is what? Data tested ID value. This is a complete locator. So tag, class, and attribute. So the input is a tag, input text is a class, and this is an attribute. Attribute in the sense we have to specify attribute along with the value. Now let us use this. This will go and identify the second element. So now I'm just changing the CSS locator. Okay, now abc@gmail.com. So here I'm just changing some value. I'll say XYZ. Now where this value should go? This should go into the second input box, which is password. Let's try to execute now. Yes, now you can see the password is in encrypted format, so we cannot exactly see the characters. So it is just given dots, 3 dots means which is successfully entered the password in the second input box. So this is a different scenarios which we can use the combinations of CSS selector. And this is a customized because we are going to write our own. So it is not directly available. So by taking multiple things from the HTML, we are framing our own selector. So that's the reason which is called as a CSS selector, cascading style sheet. CSS is nothing but a cascading style sheet, which is basically a kind of a language which is used along with the HTML to design the web applications. Okay. So these are all normal locators so far we discussed. Like we have seen how to use ID and how to use name, how to use linked text, partial linked text, how to use class name and tag name. And along with these normal locators, we also discussed about CSS selector with the different combinations. Okay, so just for today, practice these things. And in the next session, I will discuss more about XPath. So XPath is the most important thing when you compare with the rest of the locators, because 80 to 70% of the times in our automation, we use always XPath. Okay, in the next class, I will talk about more on XPath, like what is an XPath, what are the different types of XPath, how to write our own XPath, how to design automatically that XPath. Okay, there are different things are XPath functions are there within XPath, and how to handle the dynamic elements by using XPath. So there are different things we have to discuss as part of XPath, and tomorrow we will continue this session. Okay, so I'll stop here for today. Just practice these locators, and I'll share these 3 examples and try to use these locators and go through the presentation also. I will share this presentation today, and still we have XPath. Still we have not discussed XPath. So that is also part of this presentation. So these are the items which we are going to discuss in the tomorrow session. Okay, then we will finish the locators concept. So I'm just stopping here. We'll continue tomorrow.